there's a way out. If you are 100% certain you don't want to do this,
You're a doctor, or you're a lawyer, or you're a dentist, or you're a Kardashian. Like, those are the 4 options.
and by then I was like, guys, don't do it. Don't do it.
Like, you have to go through more of a rigorous process to like adopt a hamster. Was it just like a moment of freedom, or was it terrifying?
We left our entire lives behind.
You're really honest on like your own Instagram and everything about like your burnout.
I'm like, I lived in Peru for a month. Going through these pictures, I'm like, that's a wild boar. You're touching. What is wrong? I hadn't taken responsibility for my life, period. Trust that you can figure it out.
What a
Yeah.
concept. Hey everyone, welcome to Non-Billable Hours. I'm Odette, and today I have a very, very special guest. She and I met at the very beginning of my legal career before I could even legally call myself a lawyer. And her life looks quite different from it did when I met her, and so does mine. So today I'm very excited to welcome to the podcast, Yana Banzen. Hey girl. Hi. We made it happen. You're here.
I made it.
I'm not going to lie. I had a bit of imposter syndrome when you suggested coming on the show because I was like, oh, she thinks I'm way better at this than I am. Oh, there's actually buy-in. Like someone actually wants to do it. So you were such a push in taking the next step to do this. So thank you.
I guess it's a big difference just to talk into the microphone by yourself,
It
right?
is.
As opposed to knowing which questions to ask, which direction to take this into,
Yeah.
how to create the energy field.
Yeah. And you brought something so beautiful with you. Okay, tell me about this.
Okay, so that's a cacao pod. It's the outer shell of the fruit body, the fruiting body of the cacao tree. They grow in Central America. Inside, if you open it when it's fresh, before it dries, there's all the cacao fruits. Yeah, and then once it's processed, it becomes everything else, Lindt chocolates. And Nutella. Did you see that breakdown of what's in Nutella?
No.
Like literally
Sugar?
1 gram of cacao, which is that, right?
Okay.
And then palm oil, and the rest is sugar.
That's why it's so delicious. Yeah. Wasn't there a lady who like started a lawsuit in the US because she was feeding her kids Nutella and then
Thinking
she, like,
it's healthy?
actually found out it was not as healthy as she thought it was. And I was like, it's chocolate spread.
Yeah, woman. Just read the label behind the product.
My bones are so brittle, but I always drink plenty of milk.
But I won't.
We don't know anything about frivolous lawsuits being litigators or former. Well, you're no longer a litigator,
No,
but you
thank
were when
God.
we met.
Yes.
And so I want to talk a little bit about your before now, like your journey into law school through and out the other side. What initially made you want to become a lawyer? And did you know you wanted to be a lawyer when you were younger?
When I was growing up in Russia, being a lawyer or prosecutor for the state was never a prestigious, fancy thing. It was just a job.
Yeah.
All the other jobs, like not really an aspiring thing to be. But once we immigrated to Canada and my parents literally told me, okay, the pressure's on. We left our entire lives behind just so that you can have a future and so that you can have a life. And once I realized, oh my God, the pressure's on, I have to make this life worthwhile and I have to make their sacrifices worthwhile. I have to really make something of myself. And I guess when I looked around, I was like, it looks like people love doctors and lawyers. And I couldn't dissect a frog at all. So I was like, okay, well, med school's out.
Yeah.
I couldn't touch a cadaver. I guess I'll go to law school. I guess before I had the prejudice that like, oh, to be a lawyer, you have to be extremely intelligent and articulate and you have to be at the top of your game.
Yeah.
Which I thought I was because I was like, A+ student throughout my whole life. My both parents were teachers and my mom was a prof. So everyone knew them in the city. And so it would be like a shame if I brought a B home. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so I had to perform my whole life. And then I did. And then I said, no, I don't want to. So here I am.
Did you have that thought? Was there any point in law school where you're like, I don't want to do this, but I'm here now? And
No, law school was pretty interesting. Law school was fun. It was like a very intellectually challenging thing and interesting thing, and people were cool.
Yeah.
I'm having like memories like you were in my law school, but you weren't. I know.
I feel like we do go back.
I
that
know.
long.
When you were mentioning law school in the podcast, I was like, yeah. And then she knows my friend Will. And then I'm like, no, she doesn't. This is like a different universe, different school, different year altogether.
3Ls don't talk to 1Ls.
I did.
You're very
so
nice.
many of my friends were like 1Ls when I was finishing. And by then I was like, guys, don't do it. Don't do it. No, I love torts. I hated torts and then I loved torts.
Really?
Yeah, I guess it made sense that I went into litigation and personal injury, right?
And did you feel like you wanted to do it in practice, or did you kind of fall into the litigation after?
I didn't really think that far ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I was like, we're on this train, we're all doing it, right? There's a process you follow, you like fall into it. You're like, okay, now everyone's sending out applications.
Yeah.
Now the OCIs, now the this, now the that. And you're just rolling along until like one day you're like in this chair and you're like,
How did I get it? Like the talking heads, like how did I get here?
I'm here and I hate it.
Well, how did I get here? Letting the days go by.
You're like, it's just killing me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was high school where I was like, I'll do this. And then, like, of course, you end up in law school and your whole life you're like a top student, whatever, right?
Yep.
And then you're surrounded by top students and you're like, I'm the dumbest person.
You're like, I'm not special.
In the whole province. Because up until that point, like, your intelligence is your personality, right? And then I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Everyone's smart here.
Yeah.
And I feel so stupid.
Did your law school have the gold medalists?
Oh, I'm
Like
sure they
your
did.
top
Yeah.
performing student? Like, I'm not that person. Sorry, guys. I'm going to ride this B curve right off a cliff.
I think I also read a lot of stories of people saying, or the school you go to doesn't matter. What matters is how you are with people, because these are going to become your colleagues.
Totally.
Because day after day, you're showing up in front of the same judges in the same courtrooms.
I loved my professors. I'm still in touch with a lot of them. They are fantastic. But like what you learn, you can't teach how to practice law at school. You have to.
Yeah, you have to go do it.
It has to be literally trial by fire.
Yeah.
And it's terrifying.
Yeah. But just like this, right? And teaching yoga too. Like,
It's
you
true.
just have to go start and do.
You have to do it. You talk about like your family, because I was born here, but both my parents are immigrants as well. And so same kind of thing, like especially in Middle Eastern culture, you're a doctor or you're a lawyer or you're a dentist or you're a Kardashian. Like those are the four options. Like there's no other choice. I also like felt pressure. I didn't know what lawyers did.
Yeah.
I didn't know what my life would look like. I just knew like, yep, they make a lot of money and I want to make money and be smart. And
Did you attach money to something else, like inherently about like what that would mean?
yeah, I wanted to take care of my parents.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I wanted to be able to take care of my parents.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Same,
being a
yeah.
lawyer, right? Like being a lawyer, I will be able to do this.
Yeah.
Then you realize that you have to go into 6 figures of debt first, pay that off before you can take care of anyone.
Yeah.
So it's like, no one tells you all this stuff. Like you have to go through more of a rigorous process to like adopt a hamster than you do to like take on $100,000 in debt.
I took out like a tiny loan. Yeah. So I didn't really go through all of that because I put a lot of pressure to not do it because of that like initial pressure of like, I have to take care of them. But it's such a, I guess, internalized.
It is.
It's on me now. So that meant like 3 jobs like every summer, high school jobs. I might start crying. I never had fun, you know.
You're
like
amazing.
people took trips between like first year,
Yep.
right, and second year, or they took a year between undergrad and law school, or like they even went for the summers somewhere to spend money. I just like put all that pressure on myself to
You can keep talking. It's okay.
put
Put it in your face.
put all that pressure, to like just scrape by. There was one year when they gave us a phone, right? It has data, all of that, because you're tied to the
You're
phone.
on call,
and
baby. You're a surgeon.
Yeah, so I was like,
Yeah.
well, I can't afford to have Wi-Fi and rent, so I'm just gonna not have Wi-Fi at my apartment. And so I didn't even have Wi-Fi because I was like, I am still paying off this small debt.
Yep.
And I can't justify like spending more. And I had a library next door to me, so I was like, this is convenient.
So all through high school, because I knew I probably couldn't save up enough for law school, but I was like, I will not graduate undergrad with debt. And so I like worked my butt off because I was like, I need a scholarship.
Yeah.
You know? And then the other one was like, I worked at Tim Hortons. Like I worked at the
same, me too.
Did you?
Yeah, and KFC and then Sobeys. So
stop it.
My summers were like running between those three because they were like in one plaza. So I would like finish one shift, go to the next one, then in the evening go to the third one.
Would you get sick discounts though on chicken?
I ate for free.
Yeah. Right? Are you sick of it? Can you look at KFC?
Oh,
are you done?
Well, I'm vegan now, but also like I can't even like passing by. My parents still live nearby that neighborhood. So in Calgary, when I go there, and the whiff of just like the deep fried, I'm like,
you can't do it.
I cannot. No.
That's funny because I go to Tim Hortons and I'm like, give it to me.
My vice was a blueberry bagel with strawberry cream cheese.
Yes.
Toasted.
They used to have those.
Man.
And they
I'm
don't
like,
have,
mouth watering.
They don't have either of those anymore.
Oh, are you serious?
And you know what our little hack on drive-thru was? You would take a Dutchie, the real Dutchie, you cut it in half, you throw it through a toaster, and then you put a bunch of butter on it.
Oh, yeah, that sounds yummy.
That's when we were teenagers and we could eat whatever we wanted. So you're litigating, you're in litigation. At what point are you like, get me out of here?
So the interesting thing was articling finished and I was one of the 3 students who didn't get hired back. Okay, let's see what happens now.
Yeah.
But I moved on from that and I went right into, so from personal injury into defense work, right? 1 year.
Yeah.
On the defense side, there was no actual real human you could empathize with that you're helping. Taking out that empathetic element made it 100 times worse for me to be doing that job.
Oh, okay.
Because being there for the people who were in suffering was what made it worthwhile for me, which is like the similar thread that goes into teaching yoga now, because the element of being there for someone is still there, right? You're now part of their healing process and the healing journey. And there I was as well, just in a different capacity. I remember there was one client who she called me and she was complaining about all of the difficulties, right? She caught herself and she goes, oh, why am I going on and on about this? You're not my therapist. You're my lawyer. In that moment, I kind of forgot the role I was in. I was more like, holding space for her, like emotionally. But also just being a human, you know, just being like, okay, here's a suffering human in front of you and they called you and you're on the other line.
They need you.
Yeah. And she wants to be heard and seen in her pain. And here I am seeing and witnessing her pain. And that's what she needs. And I'm here. And this is my role right now, regardless of like what's on my resume, right?
Yeah.
And in that moment, I was like, oh, I would rather do that. I would rather be her therapist than
have to stop.
Then hang up the phone. Yeah. And be like, okay, well, now I'm going to go draft your motion.
Right.
I don't want to draft your motion. So once I thought, oh, this is personal, they didn't hire me back. And I went into defense. Then 1 year there, I got fired from that job. And I called my first firm where we met. And they said, oh, we have a spot. Come back.
I remember you coming back. I was so happy.
Surprised. Oh.
No, I was so freaking love you. I was like, yes.
She's back. Why is she back?
Give me that.
We are back. We are back.
You're
Here,
back,
I'm
baby.
back.
Yeah.
In a corner office. So that was like a full circle moment. And then working that year back in personal injury, I got to a point where I was drafting something and I just like had this visceral feeling like, this is not what I'm on this planet to do. Like I have to be, there's something else for me. This is not it.
Right.
I just felt it through every cell of my body. Like it was just such a...
Was it an undertakings motion?
Probably.
So it was a moment. Like it was kind of, there was lead up, but you remember that.
For sure, there was
that
feelings of
second.
like being dissatisfied and thinking, wow, only like 1% of this job is actually exciting and you can't relax. And you're always thinking of the next thing that you might screw up. A ding of an email would like through
I
my
get up to like make a
body.
coffee. I come back and I see there's the little email
notification?
thing. There's a notification. I'm like, fuck, what is it?
Yeah.
And it's like spam.
Yeah.
Because
So
we're
it
trained.
primes you to be like in this limbic system of like always being on high alert, right? And always prepared for
The worst.
conflict and like, yeah, for fight or flight. If this lawyer emails you back with like, "Ah,
Yeah.
how are you going to respond?
Yeah.
What position are you going to take?
Yeah. The whole like never put anything in writing you don't want in front of a judge has served me well, but it also terrifies me to put anything in writing.
How do I tell him to fuck off nicely?
Govern yourself accordingly, but that's like an old one. The first time I saw that email, I was like, oh my gosh, he went there. Like
Yeah,
it
yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
to me. It was like I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
CC'd.
yeah.
I was like, oh, it's on. It's on.
Yeah, it's on.
It was like
yeah.
a work
Better
work
watch.
cry.
Better watch.
Okay, so you had that moment. You were drafting.
Yeah.
Whatever you were
Drafting.
drafting. What did you do? Like, how did you shape? Did you quit? Did you put in your 2 weeks notice, or did you take some time to kind
Yeah,
of?
that year was, so when I came back to plaintiff work, it was a 1 year contract. So the contract came to an end and they said, oh, we're not going to renew, right? And 2 months before that, I got the news about my cervical dysplasia stuff, which freaked me out. Now that like I know more about it and how treatable it is, it's doesn't seem like such a big deal, but at the time it was like, holy cow. So he said if there's no cancer here, zero cancer, and this is full on cancer, you're here, you're in the middle. And I was like,
That's not terrifying.
if it goes untreated for like a decade, you will probably develop uterine cancer. And that's why screenings are important, right?
Get screened, kids.
I love how you made it gender neutral. If you have a cervix.
If you have a cervix, people with cervixes, get screened.
I hadn't taken responsibility for my life, period, up until that point, ever.
Even though you'd gone to law school,
I know.
become a
You
lawyer,
would think that, yeah.
you
But
did
it
all
was
these
all
things.
on like autopilot and like it was all coming from fear, right? And yeah, like a sense of like
responsibility for others.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And being like, oh, I have to or I should. That's not responsibility. That's like just doing what you think you should
That's
be
an
doing.
obligation.
Yeah, and it's coming from a different place. Responsibility is like from a place of respect and love for yourself, right?
Right.
And
Oh my God,
and
yeah.
others. Yeah, this is just obligation out of fear. This is not responsibility. It's the
Right.
opposite of that, right?
You just gave me like literal
Yeah.
goosebumps.
Yeah.
Mine is blown.
How can I take responsibility for my health when I haven't taken responsibility for my moods, for my job, for how I feel, for whether I'm happy or not? Health was like on the back burner, right? Because you're also taking health for granted, like in your 20s.
So that was 2 months before you didn't get your contract extended.
Right. So all of it was like culminating all
yeah.
in one in the same time. And then the results from like the cervical dysplasia actually got worse. So it was like low grade. And then within 2 months, it was high grade. And I like just freaked the fuck out. I was like, oh my God, in 2 months, it got like from a 5 to a 10 now.
Do you think it was stress? Like
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. When the doctor ran through like all of the risks, he was like, do you smoke?
Are you a lawyer?
Yeah, that was the last thing. He's like, do you smoke?
Right.
Do you this, that? He's like, oh, are you like, how are you managing stress? I'm like, what do you mean managing?
What do you mean managing?
I'm like, I am stressed. Like, I don't know what it's not to be stressed. Like, this is my just baseline.
Yeah.
So he was like,
constantly in a
well,
state.
probably that has to do with it. And then I went to the naturopath, and this is where things get a little woo-woo. She said, usually when someone's boundaries are being violated, we kind of keep that energy in your uterus and your cervix. So the cervix is like that boundary that keeps things out of your body, right? And you're being kind of transgressed and you're unable to say no. And you just think you have to say yes or something like that, right?
God.
And years later, it like dawned on me, like there were so many times in my life where like
Your boundaries were pushed in ways.
in different ways
that weren't
Yeah.
necessarily as extreme,
Yeah.
but just
Yeah.
as impactful to your body.
But also learning that like, oh, I can't say no. Like I don't want to create conflict.
And then you become an articling student and you can't
Wild.
say no. It's tough. It's a tough introduction into the working world.
Not, and not until I started doing other jobs, I realized how odd that experience was of articling, being someone's underling,
Yes.
doing the errands for them.
Yep. Personal or otherwise. I
That
dog
is
sat.
Bizarre.
I went, picked up a dog, brought it
Yeah.
to my house,
Yeah. Oh.
sat for the dog, then went, dropped it off. You're really honest on like your own Instagram and everything about like your burnout in the legal world and that kind of stuff. So, what made you want to share? Because it happens to so many lawyers and just people in general. What made you want to share that part of your legal journey with like people, with the world online?
That's an excellent question.
Thank you. I'm a lawyer.
But also like, I don't know if I've ever like thought about it. I think once I started doing yoga, I started becoming just more honest with myself
Yeah.
in the first place.
Yeah.
Because a lot of my life was just lived kind of in denial and lack of awareness of like what's happening. I'd be doing things and not really feeling into like, why am I doing this? Doing a lot of things from like a place of should rather than I want to do this or I love this, so I should do that.
Right.
Yeah, so yoga really kind of made me get honest with myself at first. And then I was like, I might as well just be like honest with the whole world, because I also, through yoga, I realized, oh my God, this life is just a game.
Yeah.
And I don't really have anything like to lose. I'm like, we're here on this planet.
Right.
We already won just by
Right.
virtue of like being here.
What are the odds?
In this moment?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the fears that people have, I realized I have nothing like to hide. And I think once I started like writing and showing things, and like stepping into like more vulnerability, people started coming to me and saying, holy cow, that is like my experience. That is what I lived through. And saying like, thank you for writing about it. Thank you for sharing that. And I realized also like a lot of people don't share.
Yep.
And it just feels like such a loss.
Yep.
And it's so sad. And a lot of people, live behind masks and they, bottle things up and they don't disclose because they think it'll make them appear a certain way. I think stories are so empowering and powerful. And sometimes this is going to sound really vapid, but
No, say
sometimes
it.
I read back like my own stories and I'm like, damn.
That's amazing.
I'm inspired. I'm inspired by that girl.
What? That's not vapid.
Like
beautiful.
on like really like low days, I'm like, oh wow, yeah, totally, I did that. And I'm like, I lived in Peru for a month in the jungle. Monkeys are wild. I was interacting with a wild pig, and then I'm like, going through these pictures, I'm like, that's a wild boar you're touching. What is wrong with you? But I had just came out of like an ayahuasca ceremony, so I was like, I am the universe. I am nature. I am with all of you tigers.
Nothing
Nothing can harm me. And he didn't.
Well, he smelled the ayahuasca on you. And
Yeah,
he's
he was like,
this
"Who's
one's
that?"
a real one. She's part of the universe.
I was like, my body literally dissolved into the soil. And that's
so
actually what
funny.
yoga shows you, like that you are other people and you are other entities on this planet. Because I mean, from like a science perspective, we're all made of stars.
Literally. Yeah.
Right? The same elements compose all of us. When we exhale, the trees, the poor plants are taking it in, right?
Yeah.
Then they become what our like CO2 is, right? Like
Everything's connected.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Through yoga, I like again viscerally like felt that.
Yeah.
You cannot hide anything from yourself.
No.
everything that's in the shadow wants to come out. It wants to be like seen by the light. It wants the light of your awareness. So once you start integrating different parts of like who you are, the shadow, the light, but also different like ages of yourself, like your inner child, right?
Yeah.
Then now I'm like, oh my God, there's also like an inner teenager that hasn't been healed yet. And the teenager part is like, you know, that aspect that like wants to say no and like rebel.
Yeah, I was
like,
gonna say my inner teen is a rebellious little, you know what?
Are you still working through that?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
always,
Yeah.
always. But I'm actually giving her a little bit more, like
Space to say no?
To say no.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
something that I'm working
Me
on.
too. Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
I wasn't allowed to say no as a kid or a
Yeah,
teenager,
yeah.
or early in my career.
Yeah.
And now, like, I'm in a relationship where I feel really safe, and I'm in a place in my employment where I feel really safe, and I'm just like standing up for myself, and I'm not being a see you next Tuesday about it, but I am saying no, and like
Yeah.
it feels good.
Yeah, when it needs to be
When it needs to be said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually very similar, like now being like in a safe relationship, right? I know that my no will be received with respect and it will be honored. So having that safety in like in a romantic relationship
Yeah.
almost propels you to be like, not like more brave, but more assertive and helps you say no when you need to say no in
Yes.
all the other aspects and all of the other relationships, right?
Absolutely. Your honesty comes from being honest with yourself in yoga. So how did you find yoga?
There was a yoga class in my condo building.
Had you ever done yoga even like offhand up to that point? Yeah.
One time I went in law school. My friend in law school dragged me
Okay.
kicking and screaming.
Oh, that's nice. Mine took me to CrossFit.
Yeah, she was from Vancouver, and when we met in Ottawa, she was like, part of my budget is a yoga studio. No, she was
Yeah.
like way like more self-aware from doing yoga for years, right? She was like, no, I knew that I needed this like in law school because I know this is like high stress environment and I will need it. So I want to like shout her out. She's
You
so
can.
cool.
Please
Her
do.
name is Cinziana Gutiu and she's so cool. Yeah, so she took me to a class in our gym at school in law school and I hated it.
Really?
I was like, what is this? We're just stretching. Nothing's happening.
Stop telling me to breathe.
Slow. Yeah, breathe into my belly. What do you mean? I don't have a lung in my belly.
Follow your breath through your spine to the soles of your feet and into your genitals.
What?
And never came back after that one time. That's how bad it was, right?
Wow.
I'm not breathing into my genitals, lady.
And then I honestly don't know what propelled me to go to that class in my building. It must have been some sort of frigging universe.
Something.
But honestly, like my life is just so completely different because of it and because
Right.
I went back into yoga. Yeah. So I went to that class
Yes.
once a week. It was 1 hour.
Okay.
And I realized something in my brain was different for that 1 hour. I didn't know what was going on, couldn't explain it, didn't know what was happening, but I just knew that in that 1 hour, something so magical was happening that I wasn't stressed out. I wasn't thinking about work. And I'd leave that 1 hour thinking, wow, I should do more of this because now after this 1 hour, I'm just back to the insanity all over again.
You're like, how do I capture this feeling more and not just have it be an
And also
hour?
it gave me like so much curiosity around like, why does this happen? We're just on the floor doing things. Why am I feeling different?
Right.
So different. So it was like a complete mystery to me. And I just, I have that like analytic mind,
Yes.
right? That one
Yeah.
like
The
wants
why.
to figure out,
Yeah.
why is this happening? And it just like gave me a window into this like a whole other dimension of being. I was like, oh, life could be like that too, eh? Yeah, to be like at peace,
Yeah.
to be content with what is,
Right.
even when shit's hitting the fan. You're
Right.
like, that's okay.
So before then, is it fair to say that there wasn't really a big coping mechanism for the stress?
I had the coping mechanisms, yeah,
Did you?
for sure.
Not
It
as
was
healthy as yoga?
drinking,
Yes, of course.
buying things.
Yep. Buying things was huge because we were right by the Eaton Center.
You could just go down. So many
Oh, my
days, I
God.
didn't have time to do laundry, so I would just go down,
Buy new clothes.
buy new clothes.
That's why you always look so good.
I'm looking now in my closet. I had like those Zara blazers, super cute. in every freaking color.
What was the moment then where you were like, this needs to be my life? Like, I don't just want this once. I don't want this just an hour a week. This needs to be my existence.
It started one time a week, and then it was 2 times, and maybe sometimes 3 times with different teachers. And at the end of that year, that's when like cervical dysplasia started happening, and they gave me notice. They actually gave me like, I think 2 months notice, right? They were like, oh, well, contract's coming to an end. So they were like super good about it. And they were like, if you want any references, we will make calls. We'll find you a job. I was like, just hold on for now. So
I don't know what I want.
Yeah, that was all happening. Oh, I just knew that I didn't want that. And I knew I also didn't want to go into insurance defense because I had already done that. Med school now, I guess. Oh yeah, I was dating this guy. And then he had been flying back from Japan back to Canada through Thailand. And he had stayed on this island called Kopangan on his way back.
That's weird. Okay, sorry.
And so he was like, okay, your contract's done. You have this thing with your health. He was like, I have no reason to be in Toronto. Why don't we just like sublet our places and just go to Kopangan? We flew to Kopangan, broke up within 2 weeks of being there.
Oh no.
It was also like coming to that. Giant heartbreak, lost the job, felt like lost the apartment, left the city, left the country.
You're in Thailand.
Where people don't speak my language and none of my languages.
No, they don't speak Russian. They don't speak English.
Not even German.
No.
So I was like, wow. So it was a definite like space and time to like dissolve like the older identity and see what else is possible. That was the perfect time to do that, to like step away from what I've been doing my whole life and do something different. There's so many yoga schools, and I thought, yeah, you know what? This is one of the things I'm curious about. What happens in yoga? Like, why do I feel like this?
Yeah.
And so then I went into training and then spent like 200 hours meditating, doing yoga, studying. And I was like, oh, now I get it.
Was that early on into your yoga training, or was it kind of like a last moment?
It was a dawning over time. Yeah.
What's this?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was like, my heart. What do you mean my heart? And yeah, and that's why actually cacao is so important to me now, is because the plant is a medicine for the heart. It opens up your physical heart.
Okay.
Literally, it expands your arteries.
Oh.
Physically, right? More space in your blood vessels.
I gotta eat more Nutella.
And it opens up the spiritual heart. It connects you back to these feelings of self-compassion and loving yourself and forgiving yourself and others, right? By extension.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I've always been curious about like the cacao ceremonies because we've been in like Mexico or Costa Rica or wherever, and I'm just like,
have you been to any?
No, but I want to. Would you recommend?
Yeah, come to mine.
I will come to your house.
Come to my house.
I'll come to your house. I love your house.
That thing that you come to.
Yes, I want to talk about that.
Oh yeah, we can. Yeah, we're gonna evolve that into a sound healing and cacao healing and energy healing event. It's going to be probably a little more prolonged. And the theme will be like liminality, which is like these transitional spaces we go through, right? When you're like, I know point A is done. I'm headed towards point B, but I'm in a space of vacuum and nothingness. And we're just realizing how much people go through this, loss of a job, loss of a spouse, immigration, all of these experiences, having a child, transitioning gender or whatever, or transitioning into a different role, going back to work after having a baby, just having a baby, becoming a mother. Like our life is transitions
always
from A to B, A to B.
If you're lucky.
Yeah,
you know, because that's the opportunity too, right? But it's hard.
Like, how do we support community and how do we support each other through these times of transitioning, and how do we guide people into like the next step, or how do we hold them at least in this point of not knowing what the next step is? When you're sitting and you're like, I don't know what's next. I know I hate my job, but I don't know what else I'll do.
Yeah.
well, there's ways to like open up yourself energetically and in your mind and in your heart to be open for that next best idea to come into your place, to be guided for that one next little tiny step into your next life adventure.
Right.
So anyway, cacao will be part of that.
I love that.
You cannot like move without having your heart physically open. So
When you decided that you didn't want to go back into litigation, were you scared or were you like, oh, thank God? Like, was it just like a moment of freedom or was it terrifying? Or both?
both.
Yeah.
And for like years, I had stayed like subscribed to those like Indeed job postings. And then at some point I was like, why do I keep looking at these? I already know I don't want to go back to this. Why do I keep doing this to myself? I don't want to do any of it. Family, it feels like a family.
Get out.
A toxic family.
So you didn't want to do any of it?
No.
Were your parents
Sad?
Sad? Were they sad?
Yeah. You know, you're at this top law firm doing this thing.
Yeah. My daughter's a lawyer.
And if you don't become a partner there, everywhere else you go is down.
Yeah.
It's perceived like it's a downgrade or a different path, right?
Yeah.
There's a way out. If you are 100% certain you don't want to do this, you don't have to continue suffering. Like, you just have this one life. Like, you don't get to live this life again in this body with this awareness and this consciousness again when like when you're done like being a lawyer for 60 years.
I know.
This is it.
I know a lot of your messaging is to lawyers.
Leave law.
Leave law. That's okay.
Stop being a lawyer.
You like slap them on the hand like, get out. Why?
Bad, Leonard.
Get out. Why did you feel the want, or I guess the pull, to focusing on lawyers in your practice instead of just like forgetting the legal world
altogether
and just like being like, I'm over here now?
I care about them.
It's so nice.
I have a lot of people like who you know who come up to me and some of them say, "Oh, I'm so inspired," right? And I'm like, "Don't be." No, they want to, like, they ask me, how did you do it, right? Or like when I was living like in Costa Rica for a year and people were like messaging me, you're a lawyer, how can you practice overseas, right? Like, how is this happening? So I think I opened up some people's like minds to like, okay, you can actually do other stuff, not do litigation or not.
Seeing you opened up my mind as to what a lawyer can look like. I'm dead serious. It's true. Like, I was watching you do your thing and kind of expand in different things.
Oh, right. Like, yeah, because you've never seen that. You've never seen me do that. Right.
No, and it's mind-blowing. So I'm sure I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
So lawyers reach out and they say, you're an inspiration.
They're like, how do you do this? And I said, well, you cannot stay like working at that firm because you need the FaceTime, right? That's what they want even now.
Yeah.
Right. So
you're very honest about
yeah,
you can't
was
do
like,
it all.
You can't do that specific thing.
When were you in Costa Rica?
2018 was like a whole year, nonstop.
Yeah. And it was pre-COVID too. Like you were there pre-pandemic. So fully remote was not common in law.
No. Yeah. And that's why people, I guess, were asking me, how are you doing this?
Right.
Or they were asking me, oh, are you still a lawyer, right? Because once they see me like with the monkeys and the palm trees, they're like, oh, no. The boars, yeah. Oh, no, she's doing yoga now full time, right? So that's kind of what they were asking. So, oh my God, the amount of people I sent to like e-discovery, if I got a bonus for every single one.
Oh, that you sent from yoga to
yeah. Because they would like message me, you know, and I'd be like, well, this is what I do and you can do it too. And you can earn money and do what you will love doing at the same time.
Yeah. What a concept.
I know. And now I'm like making more like tangible actual money teaching yoga, which is like the most amazing thing.
So when did you decide? So I know you did your teacher certification. Did you do that with being like, I want to become a yoga teacher? Or were you just like, I want to learn more and this is how I'm going to do it?
Did not plan to teach at all. I finished it and like felt different immediately. I felt like obviously like I learned so much, right? But I also myself transformed so much in that like 6 months being there. Everything yoga helped me with, my anxiety, not loving myself, like all of these things that it fixed for me. I can't watch people suffer through the same stuff and like not tell them about it.
Right. I know you do a lot of your messaging is to lawyers, other than leaving the law, because like some people don't want to, or they feel they can't, or whatever. If it's not practical for everyone to, unfortunately, like as much as
Or
we
maybe
would
they
all
want to
love-
stay, right?
or maybe they
love
wanna
it.
Stay, absolutely. I don't. Yeah,
Who loves it?
Maybe they love it. But regardless of what camp they fall into, if it's not practical at their certain point to go and live in a like beautiful rainforest to find themselves, like, are there ways that people can incorporate and use yoga and meditation like in small doses? Do you find it makes a difference?
Yeah. What people are asking for is, how can I do this when I only literally have 10 minutes a day?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the goal of yoga is not to get better at yoga, not to be amazing at these poses. The goal is to become conscious,
Right.
to become more aware. And same with meditation. You don't meditate so you become an amazing meditator, so you can sit for hours.
Yeah.
The goal is to become aware and to become awareness, to like allow that to merge within your being.
Yeah.
So when you're doing dishes, you can just be present with the dishes. Right? You could be paying attention. You could be noticing what you're thinking about. You could be noticing your breathing. You could be noticing sensation in the body. Just like slowly becoming aware. And both like yoga and meditation's practice of noticing, paying attention, right? Because a lot of our struggles now is with attention, focus,
Yep. This little thing.
shutting out,
Always in our
things
face.
that
Yeah. Goodbye.
things that don't need to be present. Yoga also trains you to recognize what's important and what is not important, and to pay attention to the thing that is important, right? It's so unpredictable to say like what yoga and meditation can get you, like what the end result will be.
Right.
For every person, it's going to be different. For me, it was, okay, I have to leave this. For others, it might be like, oh, I actually can mentally release this person. If I'm angry, or if I'm ruminating, or if I'm processing nonstop, I can actually like sit, do my breathing or do my meditation or whatever, and just like allow it. You know, like that book that came out, Let Them. My thing has been just allow it. Like, okay,
Right.
someone's angry at you, someone sent you a horrible email.
Yeah.
You don't have to react. You don't have to respond. But one of the things you learn in yoga is like, reality is exactly as it is.
Right.
There's no need to fight against it, try to change it.
Worry.
It already is like this.
Right.
You can decide if you're going to be angry at the reality, or you can decide that, oh, okay, the next best action is this,
Right.
from a place of like, this is how it is now.
I'm just going to put you in my ear and you're just going to go through life with me. Help me through it.
Well,
Because you're so
I've created that.
good. Yes. Okay. So tell me.
So I've created like this series of meditations, and one of them, for example, is a meditation on how to transition from work time to home time.
Brilliant. Was the pandemic like working from home? Was that kind of a?
It was a bit of an inspiration, because
Yeah.
people are in their homes and there's less of a separation, like a physical separation now, right? Because before, people had the commuting time to transition, to kind of get out of it, and physically it was a separate building, right?
Yeah.
Where you would go and do the work, and then
Yeah.
even though you're bringing your laptop home probably, and your work phone, right? And a thing of files.
Yeah. It was the coming
Or a
home.
wheelie bag.
A wheelie bag. I was
Yeah.
just gonna say your little litigation bag.
It still felt like there was quite a bit of a separation, distance-wise and energy-wise, because you're not at the office anymore. Now people are working from home, children around their office, whatever. So this meditation is specifically to help you leave all of that over there. And even if you're just taking time to have the dinner with your family and then go back to your work, whatever, it will help you to be more present with them and allow you to kind of put away and compartmentalize the work and say, okay, I've done everything I have done today. I'm okay with that. I'm cool with it. Now I'm going to pay attention to the most important thing in my life. And hopefully that's your spouse and children or your pets, right?
Yeah.
Or your actual life. Like
Your
for
life.
people, you know, before I met my partner, like single, okay, I finished work. Now what?
Now what?
Right? Okay, how do I pay attention to that? And you have to ask yourself certain questions like what is even what am I supposed to be doing with my evening, right? Like if you're single, you have nobody to talk to, whatever. Maybe you're a little lonely.
Yeah, I can only call my mom so many times.
Oh, you have the answers to what you need to do with your time and with your life, right?
Yeah.
You need to sit with yourself for a minute and decide, what do I require? What do I need? What can I do for myself? Because the whole day you're doing that for other people,
Yep.
right? The clients, the partners, whatever, serving other people's needs.
Yeah.
This is like the meditation that'll get you into the practice of like, what do I need? How do I give that to myself? And then once I do that for myself, how do I be there present for others? So it sets you up into that moment of like, just knowing what to say, how to be, because you're present. You gave yourself that moment of presence,
Right.
of being with yourself. You already gave yourself the most important thing, which is your own attention, right? Like that's what
Right.
meditation is also for. You're sitting there, you're giving yourself that attention, that energy that feeds you.
Right.
Because your whole day, your attention is going outwards everywhere else.
Right.
The meditation time is to gather it all back in, put it back into your body, give that energy to yourself, energize yourself through that, the breath, the attention, and then go out and give it back again out to
Right.
the people that you love. That one is about 20, I think they're both about 20 minutes.
Nice.
And the second one is to prepare you for sleep. So another transition. So another
yeah.
transitional kind of like, okay, day is done, because a lot of people don't shut this off, right? You're constantly thinking.
I'm so bad at that.
Or even me now, like obviously I'm not thinking about law, but I have a 6:15 class tomorrow, Friday, right?
Yep.
I have such a hard time falling asleep because even if I plan the class and I write it all down and I have a class plan and I have my playlist and I know it's ready,
Yeah.
it keeps going. Because
Yeah.
at first I was like, oh, maybe I'm not sleeping because I'm leaving the class planning for the morning. So maybe I'm
Right.
just anxious about that. So then I
Right.
started doing that. It's been a lot of troubleshooting.
Yeah, that's life. I have a hard time falling asleep if there's something I'm like looking forward to in the morning,
or super important
in the morning
that
like
you're
I-
anxious about.
Oh, I don't
Yeah.
sleep before an early morning flight.
A flight, the worst.
No,
Yeah.
like trial, forget about
No,
it.
no, yeah.
Anything like that. It's just like sleep. Don't know her.
yeah.
And then you also have the Reiki,
The
sound
restorative,
bath,
yeah.
restorative yoga. And I came to one November, and I'm coming to one next month.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I already have
yeah.
my spot,
Yeah.
and I'm really excited.
Yeah. The one thing like I suggest to people if they want to work with me, one-on-one is like an amazing way, right? Because
Yeah.
A, I can come to you, and B, it will always be tailored to like what you need.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of like one particular client. He has a very specific set of needs.
Yep.
Which require me getting to him at a certain hour so that he can be at the office at an ungodly hour in the morning as
my
well.
gosh.
You know, so where's he gonna get that at a studio?
Right.
Nowhere.
Right.
So I show up, we do our thing. It's specific to his body, what he needs in his body based on how he's living his whole day. And then mentally, like we also work on the stuff that he's moving through. So when I show up to teach like a 30 people class, everyone's working on different things, right?
Yeah.
I can't get to everyone and like say the right thing for them because there's 30 of them. If I said 30 right things for every single person, I'd be
You'd
like,
never shut up.
I'd be like a crazy bitch. Does she stop talking or what? And part of teaching yoga is knowing when to shut up, right? So
Part of being a lawyer too.
oh yeah, that's true. And a good witness.
Oh my God. That's
Yeah, so
beautiful.
the small group, we do the restorative yoga and Reiki and sound bath at my
is
home studio.
so healing.
It's so personal, right?
So intimate.
Yeah, because I can get to every single one of you with the energy for like, I guess a total of like 15, 20 minutes, right? And I love that. And my friend who's singing is just beautiful
Maddie
voice. Yeah.
is the voice of an angel.
The voice of an angel.
Oh my God, she's perfect. You two together in that, I think I talked about it for like a straight week.
Yeah.
I felt so like taken care of.
Yeah, held, yeah.
And safe. In a space I'd never been to before. You were the only person I knew.
Random humans. You've never met before.
Were so lovely with the debrief at the end.
Yeah, the
and
debrief.
You two honestly just nailed every part of it. I'm so excited for excited for the next one.
I love the intimate ones, but then
Yeah.
also like I do these giant groups at like Sweat and Tonic, 60 people.
I know. I want to come to one of those
We're
too.
getting, Reiki to every single person. Less time, but we have like 15 Reiki healers there. And the energy field that's generated through having so many, and people are excellent.
That's
we
amazing.
like both. We like intimate for certain things, and then we like the large scale for other things.
What you're saying is there's a lot of different ways someone could
There's a lot of
take
different, and
advantage
then
of your
one-on-one,
expertise
which
and
is
one-on-one.
which is like me or my partner and I doing energy work
Right.
on just the one person,
Right.
and like just giving you everything. Yeah, that's an intensive. That's like
I bet. I bet if you could go back to baby lawyer Yana and tell her one thing, what would you tell her? Would you tell her anything differently, or would you just let her figure it out?
I think for a long time I just thought being a lawyer was like the only way. The only way to like be happy and content is I would have to stay in this profession and continue doing this. I didn't really like open up my awareness to other ways of being content, and I also didn't really know how much healing also needed to happen and be done.
We going into this career, you think that's it forever. You're just
Yeah.
like, well, I'm not going into this career thinking that I might want to do something different in 5 years.
No, it's a commitment and an investment. I guess I could tell baby Yana, like, trust yourself, trust that you can figure it out from here. And there was like one therapist who at some point said, she said, do you realize like on average people can have 3 careers in their lifetimes?
Wait 1 second, I gotta double check. Facts. Interrogator, yeah!
And she was like, you're on your first one, like, if you're this unhappy, like, and I remember discounting her in my mind so bad, thinking, what do you know?
She doesn't know what she's talking about.
But now I'm like, should I go into counseling?
You're gonna have to open up and dig deep.
Okay.
Bare that beautiful soul. Let me take
You pretty much are.
Because
like,
with
not
yoga, like, half the time it's a therapy session, and I'm like, I wish I had also a master's, and I have an undergrad in psych, but
yeah.
inadequate for counseling and holding people in that way. But yeah, that would feel like a complimentary
Oh my gosh, yeah.
modality.
You would kill it. Holy cow, you would kill it.
But at the same time, I'm like painfully aware of like, people are always like, oh, what's the next certification? What's the next thing? What's the next modality? Let me learn this and that. And like yoga and meditation is already enough
Yeah.
for them.
I'm so glad you found that, because the world needs more of you. Truly, it does. You're such a light. You really are. You're such a light. That's okay. It's true. Thank you. Okay, so I like to wrap up my interviews with like a random question that doesn't really have anything to do with what we've talked about, but just something like light and fun.
Oh my God.
So this is just like, it's an easy one, but because you DJ.
Oh
You've
my
started
God.
doing these like ecstatic dance parties,
Right, yeah,
which
yeah.
look magical. And I know we didn't really have time to get into it, but if there was an artist or a band or a singer that doesn't exist anymore for whatever reason, they've passed, they've split up, that you would give almost anything to see, is there someone that comes to mind?
Oh yeah.
So for me, example, mine would be the Beatles. Like I would give
yeah.
almost anything to see the
For
Beatles, and that's
sure.
just not.
Did you watch that documentary that came out?
Andrew was literally, so I've seen
should
little bits
totally
of it,
watch
and
it.
he was playing it last night while I was editing my last podcast, and I was like crying just from listening to it.
Like for some reason, Simon and Garfunkel are coming up to my mind.
Oh, Paul Simon.
But yeah,
Oh,
they're just so, I don't know.
so sweet.
I think just like reminds me of like a simpler time.
Were you raised on that kind of like hippie-ish
You know,
music?
interestingly enough, like I had more Beatles in my younger years
Yeah.
than like Simon and Garfunkel, but because that's actually how I learned English. My dad would put an LP on and he would print off the lyrics to all of the songs, and I would listen. We'd sit there and listen, and I would follow like line by line and like translate into Russian. And the oddest one was Eleanor Rigby, because I was like, what is happening in this song? I don't even understand.
LSD
Yeah, I'm like,
fever dream.
you know, I would translate some of them and I'd be like, that makes no sense. She'd be like,
Am I
keep
wrong?
going.
It's like, it's the Beatles. It's right. Don't worry.
Yeah, don't question.
It's funny that you mentioned that. My mom also learned English through like 70s music in Iran. And so she knew Hit the Road Jack, but she didn't know it was Hit the Road Jack. So they would sing it like back into Iran and it'd be like, Hit the Road Jack. And they didn't know what they were saying, but they would say it.
We did that too, yeah. With like all the Britney Spears and like all the like Backstreet Boys.
Yeah.
You were just like
Mimicking.
saying what you think phonetically it is.
Yeah.
I came to Canada, I was like, oh my God. Or
It's a game. Oh, a game.
God.
English is my first language, and I still listen to music from when I was younger and be like, oh, that's what they were talking about. Okay, so Beatles, Simon and Garfunkel. We're just two weed smoking hippies, I guess.
Yes. Look at your pants. Look at you.
I know, right? These are my hippie pants. I bought these in Montreal.
Nice.
Thank you. Okay, so where can people find you? Where can people, if they want a one-on-one or they want to just listen to your beautiful voice?
Instagram is Banzen_yoga. And then the website is cairoyoga.ca.
I'll link them in the description too if people want to find you.
Yeah.
Thank
Awesome.
you so much.
You're
This
so
was such a
welcome.
healing, truly. I will come to your sound healing next month, but this
Yes.
was, or later this month.
Next week. Oh my God.
Yeah, next week. But this was really so special. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Oh my God, anytime. All right. So that was my wonderful healing talk with my friend and yoga instructor, former litigator Yana. So thank you so much for watching. Please remember to do all of the things. If you want to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share this with someone you think could benefit from watching it. And until next time, bye. Done. Thank you.
So cool.
What a nice way to like welcome the weekend, kind of. You're teaching tomorrow.